fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we go to eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. Covid money, miss away in the yellow correct you. Use the youth, the money, waste my must have statue. Say me like a catch you, but they got enough, they got you. Take this script and money, got and say that it's not you. One day the man above end up in my gut up. Too much eating at the kitchen, some fly by like a patu. My singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% raise.
It burn me.
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me know me got bigger. The urgent the promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, they rap and they down in our fever. Member bold honey and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the sun man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
How them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't.
Stibby-dim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no keep. And some informer friend we lovely. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for. We in Global TV, check it.
Good evening, and welcome to another program, Wholeness Again. We say, Andrew, Wholeness Again. Good evening to my community of party and all my family members. Good evening to all my moderators, platform membership holders, viewers and subscribers, commenters. Good night and welcome to the Global TV Group. It is your program, The People's Point of View. We're not going to really carry out here too long tonight. So we're just going to get on with certain things after we do the normals first. Elaine Turner, Patricia Matthews, Debbie Jervis, Sunshine, Marcia Thomas, Michelle Lewis Wilson, God's Gift, Yvonne Riley, Faith Forbes, how are you, sis? Faith's my sister. Who else is here? Real Sweet. Good evening. Patricia Matthews, good evening. Cousin Jamie, wagwan, long time. Me hear you up often, but me know so you're busy more time. You will watch, but you're busy. Wagwan, though. Patricia Williams, Prof. Gorgeous Lady, Jamaican Foodie, Millicent Jones, Doris White, Deborah Cohen, Lilith Foster, Flo M, Kate M, Monica Horton, Lilith Foster, good evening all. Good evening, Tash. Good evening, Liebert Peart. Good evening. Good evening all and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Could it be a coincidence or is the Prime Minister being vindictive? Is the question. But we're going to quickly rattle through a few things before we get to wholeness. I think it was last night or so I was telling you, say, Bakawal Gleaner. Just I write about it this evening. When we did telling you last night why Mark Golden is refusing to sign off on the first phase of the constitutional reform, Raymond. It is because of the appellate jurisdiction. Mark Golden wants, if we're becoming a republic, then we're under the appellate jurisdiction of the Caribbean Court for Justice. These lot want to still keep the Privy Council. Wants to keep the Privy Council as the final appellate jurisdiction for Jamaica, and we want to call ourselves a republic. Nothing what the Andrew Holness regime is doing or what Marlene Malahou Fort is doing as the Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs. She doesn't understand what she's doing because remember, it was the same lady who told us that she's going to create a hybrid presidency. How that will work, Shauna Smith. Marlene Malahou Fort is yet to explain that to us. But I think in this respect, Mark Golden is right. If we're becoming a republic, what's the point of still, bros, how are you? What's this point of still having the Privy Council as our final court of appeal? Then we should just stay in. We should just stay as a neo-colonial country then. It don't make no sense we say we are cut tie, we are move the king as head of as head of state, and then you're still running back to the king's judicial board to hear your legal arguments. It doesn't make sense. It's either you're leaving or you're not leaving. But you can't take out one foot, push one hand through the fence, and then still turn up over yourself. Because this is what the wholeness regime is doing. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You cannot be a republic and your appellate jurisdiction is outside of your country. As I explained last night, I understand the CCJ jurisdiction because just like the European Court of Justice when Britain was in the European Union, the European justice in that area of competence would be the final challenge if you don't get justice in the UK Supreme Court. Since Britain come out of Europe, you no longer can go to the European Court of Justice. You can only go to the European Court of Human Rights, which are two different jurisdictions. But the Prime Minister and him regime here wants to remove the king of head of state. That I do not agree with. What I do agree with, though, is this regime, which is carrying out that assault on our constitution by reforming our constitution to create a presidency, which they cannot explain, as well as they still want to keep the Privy Council. It really doesn't make sense. I don't know all know me dunce, but me don't know if I me dunce span this year one, or is it justice pattern? The Privy Council is saying that they want to bring more judges from the Commonwealth jurisdiction to sit on cases. Colleen Richards. I did not read the entire article. Let me say this because some of the Gleaner article, them Gleaner, so you have to pay to read them. Let me look if this thing is. I think I'm frozen. Me freeze or me fix back. Because in the Gleaner article, when they want you to pay to read the propaganda, I don't know, I not read it, but there's a bit that I could read. But the Privy Council would be inviting judges from the Commonwealth jurisdiction to sit on some of those cases that they sit on. Justice Panton is saying that should be fully rejected. This is not anything new, let me tell you. And Justice Panton, but then again, Justice Panton done so now have to see with him. It is a practice of the Privy Council, and I've said this before on my show. It is a practice of the Privy Council to invite judges from the Commonwealth jurisdiction to sit on cases with them. However, when they're doing that, they mainly take judges from jurisdiction like South Africa, they're white judges, Australia, New Zealand. Rarely they would do from India, Rose East. Very unlikely they would do from the Caribbean. But I think this would be more for African and Caribbean judges to come onto the court, because sometimes they do with other judges. It's really nothing new. So this flat out rejection of Justice Panton, I would really want to hear Justice Panton's view on the constitutional review, the hybrid presidency, and the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's just confusion after confusion with this government. When is not one thing, is the other. Anyone else see the Duke Street fire in the Gleaner? Since the last so much it did, anybody see the Duke Street fire in the Gleaner? Has anyone seen anything of the Duke Street fire in the Gleaner? Because we have a very petty, petulant, and revengeful Prime Minister. You also have a Gleaner, which really decide, and these are for the editors, what them tell Jamaica, what them inform the people about what they choose to put out in public. But me look, I not really find nothing about Duke Street fire in the Gleaner. I find something in the Observer. I think, did RJR Group say something about him, I remember. But I want to ask the Prime Minister, is it a coincidence, Prime Minister, that Chief Curry had upset you and left you in confusion? Is it a coincidence that just when you're being hurt and confused and pissed off, the office for the attorney for the compound town mysteriously just upsy-daisy bun down so? I see most people are focusing on the cartel document. It's not the cartel document if they're going after document. Pamela Akola, Ladybug. If they're going after document in John Clark's office, it's not majorly cartel documents they're going after. John Clark is also the attorney the attorney for their compound town is hosting that office. How coincident? Member Wholeness did say, Member Wholeness did say no other state in a Jamaica barring me. Me and me alone, the Prime Minister said. How was the crook there? I need to find the crook. Oh gosh. Him alone, he said. I don't think it's this. Ever since the Buju Banton scenario, Buju Banton going back, Yvonne, to America, Wholeness and a lot of people are weaving and waving because they do not understand what power it is that Chief Curry had that they did not know of that would free up Buju Banton in a way. What power, after I have fought Buju Banton vehemently, because it wasn't the first time Buju Banton applied for his US visa. It is because of Wholeness fight why Buju Banton had to apply to a US embassy outside of Jamaica in order to get his visa, because Wholeness wouldn't allow it. Mysteriously. As Chief Curry showed you, mysteriously, the office, the building housing the attorney for their compound town just mysteriously burned down. So
change and roles change and political realities change. But he also made the point that the assembled countries also need to grapple with their past, not just their future, saying at one point that the Commonwealth nations need to acknowledge the wrongs of our past, which were made in an earlier age, that he described as having different and lesser values. And in that context, Heather, he referenced his recent trip to Canada and talked about the lessons that he learned in his meetings.
Other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. Not 1 inch of Jamaica will come under any other sovereign authority.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Your Majesty.
is the Wholeness regime sending a threat to Richard Curry and the Maroon community? Is this a threat to the Maroon community, Prime Minister? And is this an attack on the Maroon community? Are you attacking the attorney of the Maroon community? Or are you afraid of cases pending to file, Prime Minister? Well, I don't think people are fooled in a modern days to house such document in a one building. I don't think people are fooled. Those important documents you're all going after. I don't think people are fooled to have one copy of them or have them in a one place. I don't really think people are fooled. Is this an attack on the Maroon community? And if it is, does the Prime Minister wear Abinasar Cody, Lenford Wilson? Is the Prime Minister aware that he will be asking for a war on the island that he will not be able to win? Is this an attack, Brittany L., on the Maroon community from the Andrew Wholeness regime? Remember, it was just hours ago, in the last 24 hours or so, Sue McDuffie, labor right activists were threatening to burn the house of Rupert Francis. We saw during the election campaign, Beverly Forbes, even JLP councillors were willing to use their licensed firearm in order to portray political violence against those who do not support their political ideology. So the nation must question, could this be a coincidence? Or is the Prime Minister attacking an indigenous community? Because we all know when Andrew angry, Andrew take things a little bit further. We saw the rage, we saw the dismissal of particularly Chief Curry during those rants with Andrew Holness a few years ago. But it gets to the point now, Rosalie Ricketts, where even the other Maroon chiefs, which he was arming up, he's not having dialogues with them anymore because he seemed to cannot control them. His next best target is the Taino community where he is now pushing the chief of the Taino community as the head of the indigenous people in Jamaica. What the Prime Minister aim is here, the Prime Minister is on a divide and conquer tour. The Prime Minister is using the colonizers' tool on our island to divide us. Yeah. But if this is an attack, Prime Minister, and the Maroon community, you should rethink your strategy. It will not work, nor will it go down well. Be warned.
No other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. Not 1 inch of Jamaica will come under any other sovereign authority.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica, you machine.
We celebrate 282 years of recognition of the Maroons as a sovereign community. In my first 2 visits to Akampong, I spoke about the human desire that is universal to live in freedom and the importance of honoring peace agreements. This is as true today as it was at the time of Captain Kojo. It is only right that this responsibility is now transferred to the government of Jamaica.
We have this treaty, this international agreement to which Jamaica is obligated to honor.
The committee would like to ask the state party about the status of the Maroon Treaty of 1738, as well as on the measures adopted by the state party to engage in constructive dialogue with different stakeholders about this treaty, including with Maroon community.
There is no other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. Not 1.
Change and roles change and political realities change. But he also made the point that the assembled countries also need to grapple with their past, not just their future, saying at one point that the Commonwealth nations need to acknowledge the wrongs of our past, which were made in an earlier age, that he described as having different and lesser values. And in that context, Heather, he referenced his recent trip to Canada and talked about the lessons that he learned in his meetings with Indigenous and First Nations and Inuit people in Canada on the way the country is approaching reconciliation. And he made the point that the experience Canada is going through now on this front can be a lesson for other nations in the Commonwealth. Here's what the Prince had to say.
In Canada recently, my wife and I were deeply touched to meet many of those engaged in the ongoing process of reconciliation. Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, reflecting honestly and openly on one of the darkest aspects of history. As challenging as that conversation can be, people across Canada are approaching it with courage and unwavering commitment.
As time
Only under wholeness, no other government in Jamaica has ever been in conflict with the Maroons. None of our other administration, other than this current corrupt, cronyized, nepotistic, petulant regime, has never, since independent Jamaica, been in conflict with the Maroons. The wholenesses, if you notice, have difference of opinion on a lot of what was the norm for quite some decades. Every administration comes along, respect and accept the jurisdiction, Douglas Allen, of the indigenous people, the Maroons. Under wholeness is the only government that comes along and want to rip up the book and do it his way. Jenny, Lady J. Love, during the time when Under Wholeness was minister, what you call it, opposition leader, Under Wholeness made sure him have signed and undated letters from his senator so he can fire them at his chosen. Different from how everybody used to do it. And the wholeness, unlike many other leaders, micromanages many organizations and departments of government right from inside the office of the Prime Minister. Almost 24 of them. Almost 24 ministries and agencies of government that the Prime Minister micromanages. The Prime Minister's wife is a parliamentarian. The Prime Minister's wife is the head of the legislature. Things when it usually happen, then come along and they change how they want it. The wife start doing the same thing, changing the way reports were tabled and things like that, Norman Ferguson. So the wholeness is right across the whole governance structure, rather than in an opposition. And this is what control freak does. They want control of everything, whether they are in opposition or in government. They want to have full control. Wholeness is on its own, you know. The party decide that they're no longer going to tell the Prime Minister's lie. And this is why the Prime Minister have to be out there on his own, trumpeting. But me hear Darrell Vaz.
The 100 JTC buses, I just got an update last night. The 100 buses have been finished, they have been completely manufactured, and they are now awaiting a shipping date, which could be as early as the 7th of June, which we get here sometime about the middle of July. So basically, we have reached a point of where now those buses are going to be loaded on a vessel, all of them at one time, and arrive in Jamaica in July, which means that we have them ready for the back to school So in a sense, since becoming minister in May of Transport in May 23, there's been 170 or will be 170 new buses that will be added to the JUTC fleet since May last year to July of 2024. And I think that is significant. That's a few billion Jamaican dollars that have been invested by the government of Jamaica to improve the transport system. So again, I just want to say that I asked for patience and I asked the community to give me some time. I had mentioned 6 months in December, so I'm almost spot on. And I can assure you that the 100 new buses that are arriving, plus the 70 that are in the fleet now, will make a significant improvement in the waiting time and the efficiency of JUTC, where we are going to have people being able to move quicker with shorter waiting times, and not to forget that in this order of buses, 10% of the total allocation are buses that are specially equipped for the disabled. So the disabled community will improve significantly in terms of their own efficiency. And as again, we look forward to the arrival, and you will hear more about transport and telecommunications in my sectoral debate in a week or two.
Look here, we're not tired of Daryl and them bus here. We're not tired of Daryl and this bus a long time, every minute. The 100 and how much a bus for come. Fare for reduct. Bank of Jamaica miscalculate how the reduction for be a miscalculation and misstep with this government, you know. Don't you all see that the Andrew Holness regime has run out of steam? Not even lie, Andrew Holness, not even believable lie, can they always tell lie. Not even believable lie, the Prime Minister is not able to tell the Jamaican people anymore. The deafness of the Prime Minister and his wife in relation to the Integrity Commission report signing the Code of Conduct, James. Get the Prime Minister declarations signed off for 3 years, running into 4 years that the Prime Minister has been late for. Withdrawing the letter from the clerk's record and apologize. Nigel Clark answering to the public about those buildings he's renting from other MP and other friends that should be running tax administration of Jamaica, and those buildings are empty for months after we're paying hundreds of millions for them in rent. An explanation to the 1.7 trillion from the Prime Minister, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Health. No answer at all to any of those big questions. But the Integrity Commission play hypocrisy. Because the Integrity Commission signed off on a case, Marcia Este, JP, in 2021 for Dwayne Vaz. And politically convenient, all of a sudden, this case pluck up and awaken and in a public and in court. But yet the same rules that should be applied to the Prime Minister. Dwayne Vaz was late only on 1 year, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Dwayne Vaz was late only on 1 year. The Prime Minister is late 3 years running into 4. The same rules that apply to all politicians, the same rule of law, Max Rowley, that apply to all of us. One more PMP propaganda blogger. Are you one of the Rise United, Max Rowley? No Rise United, sorry, Resistant. And no the Resistant or the Labour right them. Come over here with these nonsense. There's nothing that says you should hold an opposition to account. Everything in the rule book says you must hold the government to account. The government is the one that may take the decision of the day that affects our life, not the opposition. When the opposition comes in government, then I will hold the opposition to account. But as it is, the rule book says it is the government that you hold to account. So you can go on. So all of these litany of things that the Prime Minister and his regime is deaf ears about, it really will not serve well for the entire Jamaica Labour Party. And I'm saying to the Jamaica Labour Party tonight, in order for some of you to save your seats, you will need to remove wholeness before the November conference. If you do not do that, you are walking into a death trap. The Prime Minister's political life is over. The Prime Minister's political career is over. The Prime Minister's credibility is damaged, irreparable. There is no way of this Prime Minister repairing his credibility in order to take on a general election. There has been a rolling of blunder. Every time them try to step out of one blunder, them fall face down in another blunder. This Prime Minister cannot repair the credibility of the current JLP government, nor can this Prime Minister repair the damaged credibility of the Jamaica Labour Party. The country has finally seen the Andrew Holness regime and the Andrew Holness family for what they really are. What I do not want is for a People's National Party landslide. I don't trust no government with a landslide. What I want is a balanced parliament where meaningful debate when it comes to legislation, meaningful debate, meaningful negotiation and agreement are done on bill, rather than the situation we have now, where the Prime Minister can walk into freeze. The Prime Minister can walk into Parliament in the dead of night and within hours have a bill made into law because of the unbalance in our the unbalanced power in our legislature. I don't want to see that. So therefore, I do not want to see the Jamaica Labour Party get wiped out. The way Andrew Holness, Michael Coley, the way Andrew Holness is taking the Jamaica Labour Party, it could be a wipeout at the next general election. I want a balanced legislature at the next general election. Andrew Holness needs to give the Jamaica Labour Party time before conference to redeem itself to take on the general election. When you have a parliament, whichever political party, when you have a parliament this unbalance, Clifton, all you need is a Donald Trump to turn things upside down. I said to you before, when I talk about the Constitution and tainted Congo, no matter what political system or governance structure you are using, your system is as perfect as the head of Donald Trump and Andrew Holness. The protection for all of this, though, is you, the people, and the courts. Because without the court, me I tell you now, Andrew Holness wouldn't get away with a whole heap of something, but we would have a whole heap of oppressive laws on our statute book at the moment. But you, the people, don't want to stand up and protect your democracy and your rights against this current regime, who have shown us in broad daylight. Remember, the Chief Justice Galangin tried to appoint part acting Chief Justice so he can get rid of him when he want. Parla cool with him bolt down Parla in the till L.A. Lewis of Carragher Cemetery. Him and RJ Marks are ruckus. So when RJ Marks do our tenure as ambassador already from 2010 to 2012, Holness still see the need to bring back RJ Marks as ambassador from 2016 to now. So just like how we're going to take out Holness out there in our coffin, and so we're going to take out RJ Marks as well. The Easy Jerk World, how are you? The Easy Jerk World is saying you all should like up the live. Like up the live, and too stingy with a little finger. To put people they asking if you use on a big toe like the live, what would be a difficulty? If on a big finger we're asking if you use, head teacher K Wagwan. If on a big finger we're asking if you use, hit the like button. What would be a lala if we are asking if you use on a big toe? Not one I would and get a likes around here. Not one. But back to what I was saying. Your governance system is as strong and as perfect as the head of Donald Trump and Andrew Holness. Unless you have a good court system that will protect the Constitution, or the people decide to stand up and protect their democracy from tyrannical leaders. So never again I would want to see the parliamentary demography in the way that it is at the moment, where you don't need any voting power from the other side to get a legislation through parliament. It is dangerous, especially when you have a leader like Andrew and Donald Trump, where their team are steadfast behind them. Barris White. Their team are steadfast behind them. Their team doesn't push back on them, Millie McBean. These tyrannical leaders get anything they want through the system, lest you have the court to push back on them if the people refuse to exercise their right. So I don't want to see the Labour Party get whooshed out at the next general election. I want a balanced parliament, so the constitutional review can be more meaningful, because the country will not see it as an Andrew Holness push upon us. Rather, it is done more in a collective way that will benefit all of us. So to you, Max Roy or whatever your Max Romy or whatever your name, sometimes I understand so resistant people and labor people deliberately and selectively dumb, because I'm not dumb, it's deliberate and selective. just because you want to push a particular narrative. I know sort around here. Around here, it's a Pan-Africanism, Jamaica first. We don't know nothing with PMP, nor Labour. You understand? I'm here for the people of Jamaica. I'm a voice of reasoning. I'm a voice of information. I'm not here to spew political propaganda for neither JLP nor PNP. It's about the country. And if you're noticing the mood of the country, the people have lost it with the Andrew Holness regime. Nobody's understanding them. They're not communicating with us. They're not listening to us. Them just have to do what them want. And the more them do what them want, it is driving a wedge between them and the nation. I do understand that some of you cannot see that or will not understand that because of your political, what you call that same thing, the way blind you. Your political partisanship. When I got able to see it, but it no means that it don't exist. So when you want to come here and force people to think like no, what you all need to do, when you listen to one sentence and then one come down with truth, what you need to do, look at the pattern of our work. Big bossy. Look at the pattern of our work. What you did there when me throw Mark Golden up wall? What you did there? What you did there when me expose Dennis Meadows? Me and no politician and no friend. No politician no pay me. No politician can call me. So I have to come out here, come beat no drum for no politician. When me come out here, come beat drum, my drum is about Jamaica. When me come out here, come beat my drum is about Jamaica. My drum is not about any political party. At one point, I was willing to listen to the UIC, to support them or whatever. But the UIC have become a dictatorial armchair of politics, political idea rather than politics. So me not there to support any one of them. Any one of them needs to be thrown up against wall, will be thrown up against wall. How far the issue is that make them bounce off of the wall, I saw it go. But there's no hiding place here for politicians. This is not the Rock of Gibraltar where they can come behind. Yes, so them have to walk out in a seat to them neck and either them drown or them ask for help. Is as simple as that. So don't come over here and brand our platform as anything being political to any of the parties. The easy to record, the UIC, them, when they had that flare during the lockdown, the policies sound amazing, especially when it comes to governance, accountability, transparency. And there was a Garveyite tone to it. There was a Pan-Africanism tone to it. There was something promising there, Margaret Wilson. But more and more you observe people from the inner circle of the UIC and listen to all of them that have that departure from the UIC. All of them had one common argument, is almost sort of aligning Joseph Patterson behavior to how Andrew Holness is running the Jamaica Labour Party, that one-manship and that one-upmanship. Joseph Patterson also, as he often said, He's not in the political gimmickry and all of those things. The type of I said this, I think it was the Jamaican Carlos, I said this. I said, Joseph Patterson is not a politician in what he is doing now. What Joseph Patterson is a political vlogger. The armchair politics that Joseph Patterson is using, the difficulty with a third party getting off the ground in Jamaica, and with his refusal to go around the country mobilizing the people, he's really not into the whole political campaign and things like that. You don't have to do your political campaign with gimmickry. You go around and you speak to the people honestly. But a part of politics, Mr. Patterson, is that you mobilize the people, and you cannot do it on social media. Social media is a major part of the mobilization, but more so for the younger voters. But like mommy and granny them, you have to go out there, and uncle and papa them, you have to go out there and mobilize those people. The armchair politics wouldn't take you anywhere with those people, even if you garner the support of the middle age and the younger people. So that type of politics isn't going anywhere. And that's why I don't waste much time talking about the UIC, because it would be just talking about another political vlogger, in my view. But back to Andrew Holness. If it is because of the Bojo Banton situation, why, if you did and if you have any involvement, but I can't put it past you, if you have any involvement in the attorney, the office housing the attorney for the Maroon community were burned down. If you have anything to do with it, Prime Minister, we're asking the question, is this an attack on the Maroon community? Are you, Andrew Holness, declaring war against the Maroon community? Why are you refusing, as a part of your constitutional reform, to have meaningful dialogue? Freeze again. To have meaningful dialogue with the Maroon community, or to have meaningful dialogue with the indigenous community? I think we come back now. Is this a signal being sent, Prime Minister? Is the office fire a threat to Chief Richard Curry, or to any of his ambassadors, or to the people of their compound town, Prime Minister? Is this a threat, or is this war declared? We can't trust Andrew Holness. Andrew Holness have to do it his way.
No other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. Not 1 inch of Jamaica will come under any other sovereign authority.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Your Majesty.
Good night, Beverly Law. Thank you for joining.
We celebrate 282 years of recognition of the Maroons as a sovereign community. In my first 2 visits to Akampong, I spoke about the human desire that is universal to live in freedom and the importance of honoring peace agreements. This is as true today as it was at the time of Captain Kojo. It is only right that this responsibility is now transferred to the government of Jamaica.
We have this treaty, this international agreement to which Jamaica is obligated to honor.
The committee would like to ask the state party about the status of the Maroon Treaty of 1738, as well as on the measures adopted by the state party to engage in constructive dialogue with different stakeholders about this treaty, including with Maroon community.
There is no other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. Not.
You're not going to have it just your way on the wholeness. You're going to have dialogue with the Jamaican people, Ivan Riley. You're going to have dialogue with the Maroon community. Otherwise, what your plots and agendas are, they will not work. Because every day, every blunder and every crack up prime minister, more and more the people of Jamaica are waking up to the tyrannical regime that your government is on our island. The people, more and more each day, are waking up. But let us warn you once more before we go. If this is a threat to the Maroon community, if this is an attack on the Maroon community, Prime Minister, don't think that you're ever going to win a war against a community, the bloodline of a community that won the war against the British. Let some you know. How are you? But I want to thank you all for being here this evening. For those of you who came late, please do rewatch the live. If you have not yet hit the like button, make sure you do so. If you're a first-time viewer on Global Television, make sure you also subscribe so when we set a live link, you will be the first to know. We are also hopping off to the West Midlands tomorrow, but this is for work purposes. But we will be bringing you your shows from behind the screen. Don't worry about that. Even Bradford, how are you? Don't touch the Lord Anointed. So thank you all for your presence and your support this evening. And anything you want to see in the glean or so on when we miss, you all know my number. Just forward the link to my WhatsApp. Those are the number on the screen. And definitely, if you haven't had them yet, Kevin Fairclutch, then you screenshot them. And any information you think that we need to know on Global Television, then just forward the link so we can look into it. And if it is something that we need to bring to our audience, then certainly we will do so. Thank you all very much for being here. O'Neill Gale, how are you, bro? Make sure to hit the like button. Look how much I know. Take the likes up to 120, please, people. Please take the likes up to 120. Anyway, thank you all very much. And join us back here tomorrow morning for your At a Glance program. Thank you and good night from Global Television.